कल मैं खोलने लगा बड़ा देखिए भाई तो जो मर्जी खोल ले सिर्फ जरूरी दिखी खड़ा होता है भाई
पैंथर दे ऐसी डैश
ਉਹ ਬੰਦ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਇਹਨੇ ਖੋਲਿਆ ਕਰ ਲੋਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੋਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਸ਼ੋ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ
पिछले साल तो ये तो सर तो बिल्कुल
Okay, I think we have enough people already. So, anybody wondering about the quiz? It is going to start
I
at,
want to ask you one thing.
yeah.
Tutorial with the game Jensen, and we have mailed that the exam will start at 10:40. So what will be the exam at 10:40 or what?
10:40. Yeah, it will be held in the class.
So in 10:40 or in the tutorial class?
10:40 in the class.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so because everybody has to take it at the same time. Nobody will have an advantage because they are taking a class later.
The quiz in your class now, yes?
Within my class, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Tutorial will go normally like the time that is allocated. There are activities to be done in the tutorial and it will be done accordingly. The lecture will be done quickly today. So I will finish off the lecture.
So what about the time? How long is the quiz gonna take?
It is going to take 15 minutes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so it will start, the link will be active only at 10:40 and it will only remain active till 10:55. So you got to be really, really quick. You cannot start the quiz after 5 minutes and say, oh, sir, I didn't have enough time to finish. So the time is limited. So actually it's only 10 minutes. I think there are only 10 questions. I don't think there are 15 questions. It's only 10 questions, 10 minutes. So 10:40 to 10:50. So very, very basic questions about information security. Okay, let us start with the lecture today. And after the lecture, we'll continue. I'll give you some 5 minutes to introduce you to the quiz. And the quiz is only 5% of the grade. So, okay, today we are learning about, can everybody hear me properly? Am I too far away from the mic? Is the voice clear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, guys. So let us start with today. We are going to look at the planning, how to plan for security. So this is about learning about the management's role in enforcement of information security policy. So basically, when you have information security systems in place, so there are some policy rules and guidelines and procedures that you need to follow and create a blueprint on how you deal with certain problems that are going to come up in the information security space. So you are running a small business, you are running a large business, it doesn't matter. So you need to have certain framework in place. Okay, so we will talk about what this security blueprint is and how we can support the information security program using this blueprint, and how everybody in the company must adhere to this blueprint or the guidelines or principles. So that's what we will look at, how an organization will enforce the policies, and they talk about education and awareness programs, and we'll introduce you to what we call a contingency plan. Anybody know the meaning of the word contingency? Contingency means what?
Backup.
Yeah, if this happens, that has to happen, right? So you can say my passing the course is contingent upon completing this upon my finishing this degree. My getting the degree is contingent upon finishing this course with an A grade. So that means it depends on that. Contingency planning is, if you do this, you get this. That's called contingency. So we will describe what we call contingency planning in this space, and we'll talk about disaster recovery, how you can if something bad happens, like a disaster to the information security system, how you want to recover from it. And incident response planning is called IRP. When some incident happens, it need not be a disaster, but even if it is a small incident, how you respond to that. So that those are the things that we will learn. We will understand the framework. We will not, like, you won't be designing anything, but you will be learning how the framework operates. All right. So let's get started. So information security, like it starts with giving you some policies and standards. So as I said in the previous class, policies, they pertain to organizations, right? Policies, standards, and practitioners, they are all related to one particular organization, whereas the rules, they pertain to the entire industry. It doesn't matter what business you are, what organization you are, the rules matter to everyone. But within the gamut of rules, you still have the freedom to make your own policies and write your own guidelines. So coordinated planning is primarily required to create and maintain these elements in place. And we also talk about strategic planning. Strategic planning is how to manage the resources like labor, how to manage time, how to manage the information security systems that you have. So this is all strategic planning. So coordinated planning, right? And then strategic planning and contingency planning is in the event of uncertainty, right? If something happens, what should I do? That's called contingency planning. These are the three. These are the fundamental things that we will discuss. So information security planning and governance. Let's look at what this means. The planning, governance. What is the meaning of governance? Anybody know what governance means?
Controlling, governing.
Yeah, governance means like making sure that things are in place. So that's called governance. The govern means like making sure things are all right. That means you are in charge. You are in control of it. So the goal of security planning is you have some strategic rules, you have policies, how to convert them into objectives, how to break it down. So so the governance talks about establishing the direction and how to measure the progress, right? Like you have a strategic goal, and let us see how you have done well in achieving that goal, right? The strategic, like for example, broadly speaking, strategic objectives are very broad. For example, the Australian government then say we want to decrease the unemployment rate to 5%, right? So that is a strategic plan, and how you are doing that. So you can develop some metrics, right? Measurement, and how you measure your progress. And that is what we will also talk about, risk and how to manage that risk. So the 5 goals of security governance or strategic management, as I told you, just covered, and then risk management. So what is risk, and how do you define risk when it comes to information security? Anybody? This is kind of related to 2 topics that we have already covered in the second lecture, I think. So risk, we can define it as risk is a product of threat and vulnerability, right? For example, a vulnerability is like if a system has certain weaknesses, anybody can attack it. The threat is an external force that has a tendency to damage, right? So if somebody is really looking for it, then it is called very high threat. So high threat and high vulnerability, the product of that is fatal. That means high risk. So we cannot control the threats. We cannot manage the hackers. You cannot tell, hey hacker, don't hack me. The only thing you can do is control the vulnerability, and that is how you manage the risk. And then resource management. Resource management is very critical. It applies not only to every business, but also in the space of information security. You need to make sure that you allocate the resources wisely, because you cannot build like high-tech security system if your computers itself, your network is not even worth that much, right? You are running a small business that hardly matters for $100,000, and you are investing $20,000 for information security. That doesn't make sense, right? So the security that you put in place, the resources must be allocated intelligently. and you need to put performance measures. What is a performance measure? What is the meaning of a performance measure? How well you do something, right? That is called a performance measure. You need to keep the performance measures in place, and you need to see if the value is delivered by the security system. But if you put the security system in place, and let us say because of that no breaches has ever happened in the last 1 year since you installed the security system, so that means it worked. So you need to deliver that value. You need to make sure that you are adding, the security system is adding value to your purpose. So far, is that clear? How to translate strategic objectives into goals? Is everybody able to follow me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now we are going to look a little bit deeply into responsibilities and functional roles. So the responsibilities of information security governance is primarily to oversee corporate security, and the CEO is responsible to look at what the customers are looking for, what the board is looking for, what the stakeholders, what the public needs. So CEO is going to take care of the corporate level. And then we have a bunch of middle managers whose roles are really critical. These are CSO, Chief Security Officer, CIO, Chief Information Officer, CRO, Chief Risk Officer, and department head. So if you are a small business company, all these roles are handled by single person. But if you are like a big tech company like Facebook or Google or Amazon, so obviously you have for each of these you have one person in charge, and there are several people who are working under him. So that under him or under her, it doesn't like, so I don't so CSO and CIO and all these people, they are primarily in charge of converting the strategic objectives into tactical ones. That means they take care of responding to security breaches, investigating what is going on. They look at audit means what is going on, like every annual audit they see what securities are still in place, working well. So they assess the compliance as well. So this is what the middle level people do. The CSO, CIO, CRO, and the agency heads and the department heads of each of these branches. So they are primarily, their role is to implementation. And then you can also classify, you can also put in like a middle level manager who basically communicates the policies and training to the employees, right? So there has to be a communication between the CSO or CIO and the employees, right? So the middle level manager acts as the link between the chief CSOs and CIOs and the employees who are directly involved in working for the company. So the employees and the staff, they all have individual responsibility, and they report the securities, vulnerabilities, and the breaches. These are individual responsibilities. If you are working for a tech company or any small business, it is your responsibility to be secure. You cannot plead ignorance and say, oh, I leaked out information, oh, somebody breached into my network. No, you have to take personal accountability for the system that was given to you, and you are okay. Santosh, what's let me give you.
Sorry, sir, it's my mistake, sir.
Okay. Yeah, okay. All right. So I guess everybody is following without any issue. So yeah. So yeah. Go ahead. Any questions? Yeah. Okay. So I mean, if you are raising hand, please raise hand if you want to speak something. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. All right. So now let's move on to policies and standards. So management is in charge of enforcing these policies, and the policies address how the technologies should be used. And one thing that you need to keep in mind is you cannot design a policy that is in disagreement with the law, right? Obviously, law comes first. You can tweak your policies, but you should be still within the framework of the law. Okay, security policies are least expensive controls to execute, but they are very hard to implement. So you need to have good middle level team. This team has to be the middle team, CIO, CSO. This team has to be really strong. So the policy should act as a foundation for planning. Whatever strategic objectives, whatever standards you have, whatever practices and guidelines you have, they should act as a guideline to implement the planning of the information security. So that means you need to read, understand, and make sure that every employee knows what they are talking about. So this is the framework. If you see the framework, so you have the policies that are made by the sanctioned by the management, by the CEOs, and then you have the standards. These are industry government regulations, and then you have guidelines. These are both actually standards and guidelines. The standards are applicable for all the industries and the government, and the guidelines will be specific for the specific industry regulations and all. And then you come to the organization level, then you look at the procedures, see how the hierarchy is. So if you can tweak here, but you should still be complying with the with the standards and guidelines. Okay, so that is a framework. So the enterprise information security policy, it actually sets a direction and scope, and it concerts the security efforts within the organization. So the CIO is in charge of this. He typically addresses two areas: ensuring the meeting of requirements and use of specified penalties in case of anybody violating these rules and regulations. So this is EISP. This is pretty basic that applies for most frameworks. EISP should include like overview of the corporate philosophy. That means for each organization should have EISP elements, and these elements should have the overview, the information security, the structure of the organization, what are the individual responsibilities of each and every person, what is the role of CIO, what is the role of CRO, what is the role of CSO, what are all these responsibilities of these members, and how these responsibilities are communicated, right, to all the staff members. So this is basically the framework of EISP. So basically a typical EISP would look like this. So you'll have a statement of purpose, which is very broad, like at the company level, what is this policy for, what are we doing this, and then we have the elements that I just talked about. Then what are the elements like protecting the confidentiality, integrity, availability. We talked about all, like what is confidentiality. So if you say some information is confidential, what does it mean? That means it is not to be disseminated to other people without your consent. Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Integrity means only authenticated users. Authentication means only authenticated users can use. Integrity means you are using the tools in the right and appropriate way. And availability means you should have access. The right people should have access and availability of the resources. So basically, the elements of information security must be put in place. And then you need to look for the need. What is the need? Why do you need? What is the purpose of the information security? And then you need to assign the roles and responsibilities of each and individual persons. And then you need to refer to the policies and guidelines. Whenever there is a problem, you need to see, okay, so these are the list. This is the list that I'm going to follow to implement my framework and so on. So that is EISP, enterprise-based security planning. And now we have incidence-based, issue-specific. That means, so this is primarily, so the EISP is primarily for the enterprise level. Now, ISSP is for the issue level, that they address like specific areas of technology, like that requires frequent updates, and like it contains the statement on organization specific on each and specific issues, right? So if this breach is happening, what is it that you are required to do? What is the role of each person? Who is responsible for this? So they create all these documents, comprehensive independent ISSP documents for each and every ISSP. So basically, it will be like a statement of policy, who has to use what, who cannot use what are the violations, what would define a violation of a policy, and basically it gives you a guideline on who is responsible for what. An IISP components would typically look like this. You have a statement of policy outlining the scope and definition of the technology that is addressed and responsibilities. So you are looking at every issue specific. And then so you are looking at like who is authorized to use what, who is not authorized to use what, and is anything that is not authorized to use was used. And then you look at the systems management and whether there was all the protections in place for the, like encryption, coding, and like virus threats, antivirus threats and all. So is everything, is the systems properly managed? Then you look at anybody who breached the policies, any violators or perpetrators who encroached on the system. So, and then we look at the limitations of liability, like statements of liability. What are the, like if you do this, what are you liable for? If you look at like other disclaimers are also needed, like, so basically you're looking at, yeah, if you are violating, probably you're looking at dismissal or in some cases jail time. If you are violating the company policies and leaking out information intentionally, that could even convert into a criminal case, or I mean civil case, let's say. So then we have system specific. System specific is primarily related to your system. Like you talk about standards and procedures that are configured, that are used in configuring and maintaining the systems that are. So basically you're looking at technical specifications, managerial guidance. So these are access control lists. That means you can restrict access for a particular user or a computer. So nobody can use except your password is there. Other than you, your system is not to be used by anybody. So if your computer is breached, we know that it is you because nobody else has any access to that. So it's like accountability. Like, if something happens on your computer, if your computer was found to be the one that was leaking out information, and the security team found out that, okay, the leak was done from XYZ's computer, then obviously you are accountable for that. You cannot say somebody took my password and all this. So that's why we talked about password protection. It's not only to safeguard your information, but also to make sure that you are truly accountable for your actions, right? So yeah. And we look at the policy management. Policies must be managed because they are constantly changing. Obviously, whenever a threat or an incident happens, you may need to revisit your policies and procedures, and you may need to write it again, because you see the hacking and the breaches, they are happening more frequently today, and you cannot say, oh, this is my policy and I'll stick to that. So you need to remain viable. The policies must be reviewed, they must be agreed upon. There has to be some issuance and revision date, like, okay, you are having this policy until the end of this year, and after that year, okay, we'll look at the advances in hacking, advances in information technology, and see what else we can do to prevent our systems from being breached or hacked. So that is basically saying that you need to stay up to date. And the information security blueprint is something that you need to design. And the security, there are several frameworks of how you convert the strategy into actions for each and every organization. So they list out all the tasks. So what are each task? So, and the tasks must also be scalable. You know what scalability means? What is the meaning of scalability? So when you do something at a smaller scale, you can do if you can do the same thing at a larger scale also, that means the action that you are taking is scalable, right? So that is scalability. And upgradable, that means you can just, I mean, just like Windows upgrades, you can software upgrades. So you can, the security system can also be upgraded based on the, like, let us say the company that has provided you the security systems, like they will also like develop, right? They will also know, they will provide you the updates. So it should be upgradable and scalable as well. Like, let us say your organization is growing, so now you have only like few servers for your company. Now if you multiply your servers by 10, right, you I mean, times were good and your like company were doing well, right? So obviously the security system must be scalable. You cannot say, oh, I have to abandon this system and put in a new system. That is waste of resources again. So you need to make sure that the system is scalable. And the most applied security models is NIST security framework, National Institute of Securities Standards and Technology. Yes, National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST framework. So NIST cybersecurity framework includes three things. That, like, we have core, and we have profile, and we have implementation. That's how the three structures. Let's look at what these three structures are there in the framework. So the framework core, the core is, it's about like the activities that the organization is expected to perform with the desired results. So that is the core. And then the framework tiers are they relate to the maturity of the programs, and implement the corresponding measures and functions. So that means it is next level. So in implementation, so you do this, you do this, you do this. They relate to the maturity of the security programs and how mature each and every program is. And then we look at the profile. Profile is used to perform a gap analysis between current and desired state. That means I am here, I want to be here, right? So that's called gap analysis. You need to see, okay, so if I want to be this secure, if I want to prevent all the threats, what is it that I need to do? So that's called framework profile. So basically all these three they are outlined in the information security core, in the framework core. In the framework core, we basically identify the threat, protect against the vulnerability, protect against the threats, detect any issues, any breaches, respond to any incidents or issues, and then recover from the damages that were created. So that's called NIST cybersecurity core. And basically these are all self-explanatory. If you look at identification, it's basically managing the assets, and protection involves like asset control, training, and data security. And then you need to detect anomalies and events, and detection of processes, upgrade the detection process, and then develop an incident response planning. We'll talk about IRP in next session, I think. Maybe in this class, or risk management. It kind of overlaps with both of them. I think IRP we're going to learn today. So it's called incident response planning. That is called responding to the threat. And then we look at mitigation and improvements of the systems that we need to make sure that they have to be good. And then recovery. So once the damage was done, once the breach was done, you need to recover from it. Like, you need to recover your data, you need to recover your authentication, maybe you need to upgrade your system, maybe you need to change your passwords. I mean, so basically that's the recovery. So these are the 5 functions that are in the NIST framework. So the NIST framework primarily, like, you can use this framework. You can look at these functions, and if you look at the framework, it's a 7-step process of improving and the programs. So like the programs that we put in place, you need to prioritize which programs must be done. You need to like orient the programs towards the right goals. and then create a profile, and then conduct risk for each and every profile, and then you create a target profile. That means what is the ultimate goal that I want to create, and then do the gap analysis and put it into action. So basically it's the same thing as they are saying here. If you look at it's basically all these three fundamental concepts are divided into 7 steps, like over here. That's basically it's the same way in which it was structured, like, you know. So now let's move on to the design architecture. Let me take the attendance right away, because there are 54 students. So let me take the attendance. I think it should be easy today. Okay, so let's take the attendance. Asan. Asan. Okay, I hope nobody missed today the class. Okay, I think that's very okay. So I think he's not enrolled, I think. Okay, Maharjan.
Yes, sir.
Ashik.
Yes, sir.
Hussein. Hussein. Farhan.
Here.
Anushka.
Present.
Fuad.
Present, sir.
Firdaus.
Present.
Prahar.
Yes, sir.
Gurveer. Noreen.
Present, sir.
Deepa.
Present, sir.
Bikram.
Yes, present.
Ricky.
Yes.
Alina.
Present.
Subesh.
Yes, sir.
Kriti.
Yes, sir.
Vidur.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Salma. Salma. Parashar.
Present, sir.
Salma, are you present?
Present.
Yeah.
Hello. Present, sir.
Yeah. Ranjit.
Yes, present.
Ajay.
Yes, sir. Present.
Noman.
Present.
Dipanjana.
Yes, sir.
Vinod. Vijay.
I'm here.
Melan.
Present, sir.
Abhishek.
Sayyid Hussain also present, sir.
What are you doing? Why are you not responding? Siada, where are you?
I'm here, sir.
Yeah, I already marked you, I think. Siada. I did not call your name.
Okay, sir, no problem.
Okay. Abhishek. Giri Abhishek. Sujit.
Yes, sir.
Ritika.
Present, sir.
Samita.
Present, sir.
Sadiksha.
Present.
Arjun.
Yes, sir.
Prithvi.
Yes, sir.
Rupesh.
Yes, sir.
Rosina.
Present, sir.
Roshan.
Yes, sir.
Prashant. Rahman.
Present.
Akram. Ramzan, sorry. Salman, okay, I see Salman raised.
Present.
Neeraj,
Yes, sir.
Girmi, Ghimir, Sujata,
Yes, sir.
Nomain, Noman, sorry.
Yes, sir. Present.
Sorry, yeah. Imran,
Yes,
please
sir.
see the screen. Yeah, so Polycarp,
Present.
Sanjog. Yeah, you can see the screen. Like, and if your mic is not working or something, you just type in here and say like, sir, present. So that's fine. I'll just put in the attendance. Zohaib,
Yes, sir.
Santosh,
Yes, sir.
Nikita,
Yes, sir.
Sofin, Fatima, Pujan,
Present, sir.
Mohammad Farid,
Present.
Amita, Banu,
Present, sir.
Umulwara,
Present, sir.
Satvik,
Present, sir.
Deepak,
Present, sir.
Roshan,
Present, sir.
Krishna, Venkata Krishna. Okay, so Sanjog, Ramzan, Prashant, Abhishek, Vinod,
Yes, sir.
Gurveer. Okay, Gurveer.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So please be attentive. Syed Hussain,
Yes, sir.
what happened to you? Like, why are you not responding when I call your name? All right.
I'm here only.
So that's the attendance, guys. So I hope I cannot change. I mean, people who did not come to the class, they may not be writing the exam. So just want to call out one more time, Giri Abhishek. So maybe you dropped out. I don't know. Yeah. So there are some people. Prashant, what happened to Prashant? Prashant Ramzan is coming and coming. He didn't come for the first class, came for the last class. There are a few inconsistent people. Sanjog, are you here? So if you don't write the quiz, I cannot give you another test for the quiz. So the re-exam is only for the final. So we don't have a re-exam if you miss the quiz.
So did you mark me?
What is your name?
Abhishek.
Abhishek, I cannot mark you now. I called you several times.
Sir, I was
What
just
are
at
you
the
doing?
bathroom.
Yeah,
No, sir,
you
I was
cannot
just at
be
the
in the
bathroom.
bathroom. You have to be in the class. It is going on for half an hour at the attendance.
So
The
that's
class was
the
going on for half an hour.
no, sir. That's the only day that I was just coming from the bathroom, sir. I'm about to do the quiz, sir.
You cannot do the quiz now. You can do the quiz at 10:40. Everybody. Yeah. So there are a few others who are not. Prashant, I don't know.
Yeah, I am present, sir.
Yeah. So you are also sleeping or what?
Sorry.
Ramzan, what happened? Okay, so I don't know whether this guy Sanjog, whether he's also absent-minded, doing something else, or this is really, really careless attitude. Coming to the switching on the computer and then coming after 5 minutes and saying, "Sir, I did not take that and did not come." All right. Okay, fine. Let's continue the session. There are how many? 56 students, right? 56, showing 56. 56 students. So my class, how big is it?
57.
57. Okay, that is okay. Now it is including me. That is 58, 57. So I have to have 61. So this number should be here 62. That means, yeah, that means 5 people are missing. 5 people, maybe they did not enroll or maybe they did not come to the class. So that,
Present.
yeah. Who?
Sofin Singh.
Where are you?
Oh, yeah, 51.
Yeah. Okay. You're present. I already know.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Muhammad Akram.
Yeah. So Muhammad Akram again. See, this is what I.
So did you mark me?
Who? Who is this?
Abhishek, did you mark me or not?
Yeah, I already did.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. Just pay attention to the class, guys. Just don't take it easy. All right. So let's continue. Let's finish it off at least by 10:30 today's lecture, and then I'm gonna give you some guidance on what we can do with the quiz. Okay, so this is week 4. I think all the other subjects are also doing some first quiz, preliminary quizzes, I think.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this is only 5% of the grade. And the next quiz is going to be a little bit tough, and it's going to be 10% of the grade. So yeah, so just be honest and don't cheat. Like you can use Google, like you can use the lecture notes, but don't try to cheat with other people. That's unethical, but I cannot control that, so that's the best we can do, hopefully. Yeah, all right, so let's look at the design of security architecture. So now we have just so far learned about the policies that just give me 1 second. Yeah, so far we just looked at the policies, the roles and the procedures. Then we looked at the NIST security framework. So now we are moving into security architecture. Okay, what is the broad meaning of architecture? What is the meaning of architecture? When you say security architecture, what do you mean by that? Like, what is the general meaning of the word architecture?
Structure.
Yeah, it's a structure. It is what comes first, what is prioritized, and it's just like the foundations and controls. So when you are looking at the spheres of security, so the security architecture is like a sphere, right? Like you have different controls. So we if you look at the different spheres of control, we look at the management controls. They set the direction and scope on how to provide the detailed instructions for it to be conducted. And then we have operational controls. So these operational controls, they address the physical protection of the inputs and outputs, right? How are the inputs there? How are the inputs being operated upon, and how are the outputs generated? So that is called an operational control. So this is primarily addressing the physical security and the personnel who are there. What, like, when you talk about physical security, what is a physical security? What is the meaning of a physical security? When you're talking about information systems, right, you need to have security, like from the viruses, from the technical threats, right? But what is physical security?
Guarding blocks.
What?
Walls.
Walls. What do you mean walls? You're talking about firewalls?
So it's the security measures.
Yeah, so security measures like what? How is it different from like installing an antivirus or
So
like
that is designed to deny unauthorized facilities or some services.
Yeah, so operational control is primarily it encompasses physical security, like it is safeguarding the server, safeguarding the machine. Physically keeping the machine safe and keeping the machine only accessible to the authorized people. That is
Like
called
biometrics?
using biometrics. Yeah, operational controls, biometrics are a part of operational controls. Yeah. So you are protecting, you are addressing the personnel, right? The people, right? And you're looking at the physical security and the production of inputs and outputs. And then your technical controls. What are the technical controls? Examples of technical controls. What are the examples of technical controls? I just covered, I just told you. What are technical controls?
Antivirus.
Yeah, antivirus, that could be a technical control. Yeah.
IPS.
Yeah. So basically,
Honeypots.
What?
Honeypot.
Yeah, honeypot. Yeah. So all these are technical controls, right? And see, the framework is primarily designed like spheres, right? So now you have information in the center, and you have people on one side of the sphere, and you have systems which are the information is embedded into the systems. The next level of security must be at the systems level, right? When the at the information level, you are looking at security planning, you are looking at training and education, you are looking at policies, you are looking and everybody, all the people are involved in this sphere. Now as you go farther away from the information, you are looking into the systems, and when you are looking at systems, you are looking at access controls and technology, right? How do you protect your systems, right? The systems can be, you can talk about redundancy, you can talk about monitoring, how to monitor those systems, all these things. And then you move little bit farther away from the systems, you will be broader, you will have a network of systems. When you are looking at the network of systems, you want to install like firewalls, IDPs. IDPs means, what is the full form of IDPs? Can anybody tell me?
Intrusion detection prevention system.
Yes, IDPs, intrusion detection. Yeah.
Wow, for another.
So IDPs, there are two kinds: host-based and network-based IDPs. So we will talk about that in class 6. But what I want you to broadly understand from these peers is that as we move away from the core, right? So you need to broaden your security systems. You need to put security systems as you are moving away from the center of the sphere. Now you need to broaden. Why do you call it a sphere and not like a wall? What is the purpose of calling it like a sphere and not like a wall or like or like a circle? Do you know why? What is the reason why they call it spheres of security and not like, circles of security? Can you make an intelligent guess why they call it like that?
It has many layers.
No, that's not correct. That's not even a good guess, actually. Can anyone make a good guess? You don't need to be correct. Why do they call it spheres of security and not like circles, not like rectangles of security? Anybody? Akram? Let us see if the people who came late can actually answer the question. Or they may just come in and leave. Muhammad Akram? What do you think? Are you here at all? Just gave the attendance and left. Muhammad Akram, are you here?
So what is the question?
Okay. Why do they call this the spheres of security, not the circles or like triangles? Can you make a guess? It is related to information security. It is important. why it is important to call each of it a sphere of security. Why? It covers each layer of security in all directions. Yes, correct, Prithviraj, you are right. So you are right, because it is the breach can be happening from any direction, right? It is not like so the security, like it is like heating. Like if you have a ball, right? The innermost part of the ball is the one that is extremely secure, right? If you have like a cricket ball, for example, that you cannot change the innermost part of it, but as you go in the outer side of it, you can usually rub it, you can damage the outer side of it, but the most part of it is the one that needs to be really secure, right? So that is how we can talk about the spheres. You need to be a sphere because the threat can be acting from any direction, right? So that's why we call it spheres of security. Very good, Prithviraj. Appreciate it. Paying attention to the class and participating in the discussion. Very nice. So we need to defend. We need to create a defense that is in depth, and we need to create implementation of security in different layers of these spheres. And it requires that organizations establish all these layers around these spheres. And the security perimeter is about. Yeah, somebody was chatting. Let's see what. Yeah, Prithviraj. Yeah, you are right. Yeah, okay. So the security perimeter is the border, right? When we call perimeter, what is the meaning of a perimeter? It's like an outline, like that protects the internal systems from the external threats. That's called security perimeter. Just like a fence, right? Like a physical fence. For earlier there used to be people used to build large structures to protect their kingdoms, right? So it's like that. That's called a security perimeter. And prisons, for example, they have a huge, very high walls that are very hard to climb, and that's called a security perimeter. And but the problem with the security perimeters is that it cannot protect from internal attacks or physical threats. So you need to be aware of that. There are limitations to security perimeters, but you still need to make sure that from the internal people, the attacks are not happening. Okay, so we need to defend we need to create the depth for the security using the spheres, as you say. You need to safeguard the information which is very, very valuable, right? You need to safeguard the system, you need to safeguard the network, you need to safeguard the use of the network as well using the internet. So these are the different spheres that we create and make sure that the information inside is really, really secure. Okay. Now, when you talk about a security perimeter, you see this dotted line here. We can call that as internal system. Now, a security perimeter is actually, as you see this line here, security perimeter. Now, this is an external network. Now, external network is trying to communicate via a router to our internal network, which is here. So what the sphere is doing is creating a layer called security perimeter, right? And allowing and not letting the untrusted network communicate directly with our high level security domain. So it is actually going through this firewall. We'll talk about the firewalls in the next class. Firewalls are in class 6. We'll talk about firewalls in the class 6. So now you can see the firewalls that are in place. They are actually accessing the information through the firewalls. Only the firewall do the filtering, and then it can send it to the trusted network. So basically what we are looking at here is creating creating a security perimeter and defining what domains how are we letting the untrusted networks communicate with the trusted network. So that is the basic architecture. Now, if you look at the security education, this is something that is absolutely vital to each and everybody. So security education and training is fundamental, and it is primarily like you can give it to employees when they start their program to develop their skills. I mean, that's security education is fundamental. Everyone needs to be trained. Every member needs to have like a formal degree in information security, especially if you are working in the information security space. You can have certifications. Um, so yeah, so there are a lot of certification programs that can give you this higher level of um, education. But today, a lot of universities are giving courseworks in information security, just like KOI. You can look at online certifications as well, CISSP certification, and a lot of certifications are available. So you can also do security training with an organization. So you can develop an in-house training, or like most companies, they outsource the training program because they cannot, like they don't have the necessary team to do the training, so they hire external people. And alternatively, you can attend a conference or a program like a professional organization as well. So basically, you need to train. You need to train your employees. You need to train the CIO and CRO. They are responsible. The CSO, CIO, CRO, all these middle level managers, they are all responsible for the security training and putting the programs in place. And security awareness, this applies primarily to each and everyone. It doesn't mean that every single employee is to be known about what's there. It should be known about the liabilities. Like if you do this, then you may be fired, or you may be sent to jail, or you may be prosecuted, whatever. Like you just need to make sure the program is implemented, the employees, the accidents are controlled, and any misdoings are appropriately, they will be dealt with. So we need to have like education, why you need to do something. Then we need to put the instruction in place, and then we need to have training. Training is about developing the skills and the knowledge on how to do things, right? Education tells you why to do something. Training tells you how to do the skills that are necessary in doing the problem solving. And you can do like a workshop. And then awareness means what to do in a particular situation. When something happens, like, okay, so this is what I need to do. I need to have some information to do what. Like, I mean, this can be either the training can be either like true or false, multiple choice questions. So basically, training tells you how to develop the skills that are necessary. Awareness gives you, are you properly informed about what to do, right? Immediately, this is something that happened immediately, can I respond to that? That's primarily a short-term response. Education, on the other hand, is a long-term response, and like training will give you the intermediate level. Like, so awareness is like immediately what to do. So these are different levels. So SCTA is security education training and awareness. SCTA, that's the full form of. So basically, security education training and awareness program is primarily implemented using this framework, but it is not mandatory that you only follow this kind of training. It is, you can follow your own framework. It's, where are we? So are we training? So we finished that. Now let's move on to continuity strategies. So now we are moving on to IRPs and BCPs. So IRP is incident response. So you can guess based on what it means is like it focuses on immediate response. Something bad happens. If the attack is disastrous, then we can elevate that level to disaster recovery and BCP. So basically, IRP is talking about immediately, how should I react? What is my response immediately? So disaster recovery plans is about restoring the systems after some breach happens. And you look at the BCP is a business continuity plan. After the breach has happened, after that it has passed, how to continue your BCP. That's so these are fundamentally self-explanatory. The terms, the words are incident response, disaster response planning, and business continuation. So basically that's how it works. Incident response, you need to disaster discovery, and then for disaster discovery you need to get information from how much of impact is happening on my business, and then the business continuity, how to continue the business. So this is the components of contingency planning. That means what to do in what situation. If this happens, what is to be done. If this happens, what is to be done. So business planning is completely primarily focusing on disaster recovery of the disaster and how to organize the business after the disaster has happened. So these are the primary components of the contingency planning. So these are continuity strategies, right? So how to continue your business using IRP, DRP, and BCP. Are these three terms clear, guys? See, the thing is, I know you have a quiz today. I know you are worrying about that, but these are going to be a part of the next quiz as well. So you need to pay attention and like for example, like I can give you an example question for the next quiz, like, which of the following focuses on immediate response if the attack escalates? Immediate response to a threat. So then you need to, I can give you multiple choice like IRP, DRP, BCP, and you need to pick the right choice. So that is how we are going to check whether you are following the lecture. Most of the time, I am going to give the content that I talk about in the class. Right? If you pay attention to the class, you will do well. I am designing all the quizzes, all the courses, all the quizzes, and all the questions. So I am picking the questions where I stress that, okay, so please pay attention here. So if you pay attention to what I'm stressing, then it will help you. And always, most of the time, 95% of the time, I will give questions directly from the tutorial slides, from the lecture slides, sorry. So if the lecture slides will contain most of the time, other 5% maybe based on common sense, I might ask you to do if you are able to think a little bit outside the box, but mostly I'm going to check your basic attention. Are you paying attention in the class? So yeah, so these are the three continuity strategies, very important, like learn, like make sure what each one means, right? Incident response. Can anybody tell me what the ICP means? Incident IRP? Anybody? What is IRP? Ajay?
What's up?
What is IRP? Incident response planning. What does it mean? Amita Paudel? What do you think? What is an incident response planning? What is IRP? How does it act?
When the system is hacked or have something incident, then the team workers can have worked incident recently what they happen and how can they mitigate this the incident. That may be the incident response plan.
Okay. So that's correct, Sujit. Yeah, let us hear from Anushka. Anushka Shrestha, what is BCP?
Business continuity plan. So it's like what to do after the breach has occurred.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good. All right. So basically, what about DRP? Bhanu, what's the meaning of DRP? And how does it work? What is the framework for DRP? Ashik Rawal, what is DRP?
Sir, it's a disaster recovery plan.
Okay. When do we do that?
if something
When do we do that, Ashik? Disaster recovery plan. What point in time do we need to implement that?
after the breach happens.
After the breach happens, correct. Very good. All right, so those are the three issues, three components, three elements of the contingency plan. As we talked about, contingency planning consists of these three things. So all of these three, they impact the business impact analysis, right? So you need to make sure that all of these three are addressed sufficiently and properly. So the business impact analysis, if you look over here, right? What is that? Like what is the investigation and assessment of various effects that can affect the organization? So what security controls have been bypassed, and what securities have failed, what securities have proven ineffective, and why did the attack succeed? So this is called a business impact analysis. It assumes controls, right? So organizations should consider like how to plan and create the knowledge and objectives and do the follow-ups. So the business impact analysis usually can be done in three stages. So determining what business process, what are the business processes, and identify the recovery priorities, and then identify the resource requirements. That means what is it that what has happened, identify recovery priorities, which is the data more important, or is the accessibility more important? What are the recovery priorities? What is what is it that is most valuable to you as an organization? And you need to allocate time, and you need to allocate personnel to find that. And then you need to identify what resources are required in order for me to recover the data. What do I need to do? What are the resources that are required? So basically the BIA. Hello. Okay, let me. I am muting everybody because of the disturbance. If I ask anybody any question, you can unmute and please speak. Okay, so that is. Are we here? No. Yeah. So as I said, if you go deeply into IRP, so now IRP is identification and classification of response to an accident. So attacks, how you classify the attacks? Are they directed against the information assets? Do you have any realistic chance of success? And could they threaten the confidentiality, integrity, and availability? So I have covered the terms, right? Confidentiality, right? What is confidentiality? You need to know these terms, guys, right? What is confidentiality?
Something which is being kept private.
Yes, good. What about integrity? What is the meaning of integrity?
The data should be consistent, like it should not be changed. It should be integrated.
Yeah, it should be true, right?
Yeah.
And what about availability?
Availability, the authorized person should access it.
Yeah, authorized person should be able to access it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it should be available to all the people who are authorized to access it. Very good, very good. And who is that? Who spoke? Very nice. Who just spoke? The girl who spoke?
It's Miss Noreen.
Noreen, very nice, very nice. Okay, I just want to make a mental note of people who contribute towards the discussion, so that it helps you when I am actually doing the grading. Okay, so make sure that you are participating in the lecture.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, very nice. So incident response. So IRP is actually, it's like a predefined responses that we have an IR team. Every organization will have an IR team. So organizations can detect the incident, and organizations should have an IR team. So IR team is in charge of formatting and creating the content, and then storing that, and then testing before the incidents has happened. Like they need to put the framework in place, like, so they need to do the test drives, like just like a car, like you do a test drive before you do. So incident response team also will do a little bit of testing before they say that, oh, this is a good framework for us to continue. So then incident response, like, we'll start with the detection. So it's about the most common occurrence is like basically like a technology support. Like you see so many like Dell computers or whatever it is, like the biggest business is lack of technical awareness. People don't know how to use a help menu. So the incident response, primarily most of it is like done by help desk or telemarket, or like somebody, if you are living in Australia and you have a problem with your computer, you call, like not in Australia, also in US, so you call somebody and then they help you over the telephone on how to fix the problem, basic problems, right? So incident detection, the most common problem is about like technology support, like how do I install Windows, how do I upgrade this, so my Excel is not opening, my Windows are not functioning, whatever, like basics. So they don't even know how to restart, so they call the tech support. So basically technology support is a most common occurrence that is a complaint. Then we need to have careful training, that is to identify and classify an incident, like how do you classify an incident, and once it is properly identified and classified, then you can respond accordingly. So that is the framework of an IRP. So if you look at the incident reaction, like it is about notification. How do you notify the people that are required to CSO, for example, chief security officer or chief incident officer, chief information officer. So you need to tell them, and you need to use the documentation of the incident. Like you can look at the documentation, the policies, companies blueprint, NIST framework, or whatever framework that you are using, and you can create an incident reaction based on that. So so then containment strategy is like keeping in control, keeping the scope or the impact as a first priority. Containment of incident scope, that means, so if a couple of networks are breached, right, how do you prevent it from spreading? Like it's like a virus, like that's like just like what the government is doing right now, like it's not letting the coronavirus spread, right? Like it's like this, it's incident containment. Like you don't want the network to be affected, the entire network to be affected. When you record a breach within 2 or 3 computers or within a computer, so you want to disconnect that computer from the rest of the network, so that like that's one of the incident containment strategies that you can use. So but there are several issues. But incident recovery is like, once the incident is contained and controlled, then you need to identify how to mitigate the losses, understand the damage that was done, and like what are the vulnerabilities in the system, identify all the vulnerabilities, why did this breach happen, so address the problems, and then if possible restore the data. Sometimes it is not possible to restore the data, sometimes the data will be gone forever, right? If possible, restore as much data as possible, restore, change the passwords, change the system. So damage assessment is something that needs to be done. So you need to understand, look at the intrusion detection logs, look at the configuration log, look at the documentation. What are the where has happened, what has happened, why it has happened. So collect all the documentation. Who is responsible for this? Why was the training not sufficient? Were there people who are idiots? Were there people who are malicious? Were there employees who leaked out information willingly? So what is the why? Assess the damage. Why did it happen? And then create an automated response. Sometimes it is good to create an automated response. New systems can respond to incident threat like automatically, right? So the downside of that is like usually the downsides may outweigh the benefits. So usually when it comes to automated responses to things, it is not usually recommended. Like incident response is usually monitored by particular person, like usually the CSO or CRO, and then they take care of it from that point. And next, we are moving on to disaster recovery. So the contingency team must decide which actions will be classified as incidents, which actions will be classified as disasters. So like what is an incident, what is a disaster, like, and then you need to make a classification. Like if the entire network is corrupted at the same time, then you can classify it as a disaster. So it's up to you, up to the policies, up to the organizations to make these assumptions on what to classify as a DRP, what to class, what would be, when do you want an IR team, and when do you have a DR team, or is the same team working all the time? So it's about taking action to secure the most valuable and preserve the value of the long term, right? So that's the basic whole idea of a DRP, basically to recover mostly the data and mostly the access controls that were lost in the breach. So now BCP involves, as I said, it is somewhat very basic, like it's about what going forward, right? Okay, breaches happened. Going forward, how do you want to change? What do you want to change? What did you learn from the breach, right? Store that. How do you store the data? How do you recover the functions into its strategy? So basically, you want to continue your business, and what is it that you need to do to reallocate the business operations during the disaster recovery, and that continue your business into the future. So, and we'll also look, the crisis management is similar to disaster recovery in sense that if it is like truly when you are looking at actions taken that are like in response to a particular emergency, loss of life, loss of organization's market image, whatever it is, so that is called a crisis. So we can, crisis and disaster, we can call it under the same basket. It doesn't make a difference whether you call it a crisis or whether you call it a disaster. But crisis is something that can be like a slightly longer term, and now crisis management or a disaster recovery, they need to know, and they need to train the people, they need to do the rehearsal, they need to do the testing again to get the things properly sorted out. So the crisis management team, like, okay, by the way, let me stress very importantly. So in most organizations, in most small business organizations, there will not be an IR team, there will not be a DR team, and will not be a crisis management team. These are all pertaining to large organizations where you have these individual sections. But most of this is like, security officer usually takes care of this, like 4 or 5 people in a small business will be able to do the security. Even 4 or 5 is really high, like just 1 or 2 people. While I am talking about different teams, different organizations, don't think that even a small business should have all of these people working for them. That does not work like that. So crisis management team, it can be the same team as IR team, it can be the same team as the disaster ERP team. So basically they will support the personnel and the families during the crisis, and they talk about the impact on the normal business, and they talk to the customers and the suppliers on how to continue, let us say a breach has happened, your credit card information was hacked, right? So obviously your clients and your customers are extremely unhappy about it. Like, how do you want to talk to the media saying that? Are you want to go public and saying that we are really sorry, or are you going to talk to the people separately? Have you heard of Alipay? There was a team, there was a couple who lost certain money through Alipay because they were using that as a transaction, and it came into the news. Actually, I will cover that in the. So what the crisis team there, the crisis management team, what they did was they said we are gonna we're going to loan you the money. The couple lost like about $400,000 because they thought that they were paying the company, but the company, somebody else hacked into their system and stole the money. So be very careful when you're transferring large sums of money across the internet. See that the channels are secure. See that it is not being attacked, or nobody is there is no man in the middle doing any funky business. So be very careful. And usually the large credit card companies, they are very tolerant. Like if somebody is, like, let us say you are in Australia and your credit card details were used somewhere in, like, Ghana, or in somewhere in an unrelated country, then probably they will say, okay, this person is not the true person, and then so they can do that. But some companies, they will keep you accountable for the loss. So be very careful, especially with your credit cards and sharing information on the internet. So I think today we covered about how to manage, how to create a security blueprint, and we'll talk about maintenance and enforcement of security policies, practices, and how to adhere to the guidelines. Then we talked about NIST. What is the full form of NIST? Can anybody tell me? NIST, NIST. NIST. Can anybody tell me the full form of NIST?
National Institute of Standards and Technology.
Yeah, that's very good. Did you take a look, and did you like type in Google and find out?
Yes. Sir, I'm on Zoom from my mobile and I can't open anything.
Okay.
You told me this last time as well, sir. Why you always tell me that I do Google?
No, actually today, like, I realized something. Okay, I'm sorry to blame you. I'm usually suspicious of giving like the exact answer. Like, it's very impressive.
Yes, sir, it is impressive because we studied. Wow.
You studied?
Yes, sir. Like, we have studied some of the topics that we studied before, so we can answer some of the questions.
Oh, you have studied where? I mean, is it not the first course of information security you're taking, or?
No, sir, in bachelor also we have studied in project management and a little bit in the applied information systems and everything a little bit.
Oh, okay, so that's pretty good. I'm sorry to suspect Noreen, right?
Yes, sir.
Noreen, I'm very sorry. Your
no, it's all right, sir. It's all right.
credit is truly deserved, and I appreciate.
Thank you.
Okay, so all right. So now let us hear from any other people except Noreen. What is the full form of SCTA? Anybody else? SETA.
Security Education Training and Awareness Program.
Security Education Training and Awareness Program. Very nice, very nice. All right. So what else? What else can I ask you? Okay. When you look at the NIST cybersecurity framework, what are the three things that encompasses NIST security model? There are three regions. What are they? This is a bit hard. If you can tell this, that means you're really good. Anybody? When you look at this NIST model, there are three major components of it. What are the three?
I know two, sir. Core profile.
Core profile, and then the third one is?
Implementation tiers.
Tiers, yeah, core profile and tiers. Nice. Okay, what is the full form of EISP? EISP.
Enterprise Information Security, something last word.
Security and planning. Very nice. Okay, what is ISSP? ISSP.
Incident Information Security Planning.
Yeah, what is the difference?
Enterprise is related with big corporation, I think, and incident is related with occurrence of incident.
Yeah, it's not incident, it's issue specific.
Issue, sorry, okay.
Issue specific, okay. But anyway, so incident specific and issue specific, it's okay. You are almost 99% correct, so you'll get full score. Okay, very good. Nice participation in the class, and I hope hope you are all ready for the quiz. Let me so any questions today? I mean, this today's class, I would say it's a little bit more like little bit dry. It doesn't include a lot of technology. So, but from the next class onwards, it's going to be more technical, like, you know, how to use firewalls. This is all going to be like a little bit more technical. So I think you will be having more fun in the upcoming classes. I hope today I tried to make it as entertaining as possible for you guys. Yeah, so it's a little bit dry, I would say, today, because it's a lot of information mashed up into today's lecture. But this is what it is, and yeah. So what do you think, guys? What do you like? Do you think you're able to follow and understand what was asked? Is everybody comfortable with what I'm going to do? Is I'm going to stop the lecture because I don't want the quiz to be. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, then I'm going to log back in. Are you hearing me, guys? Hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Please respond if you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. I mean, I'm going to log out now because this is a recording, right? I don't want the quiz talking everything to be recorded into this lecture. Do you understand this? I'm logging off, and then I will logging in again. So you stay in the same link. You stay where you are. I'm just logging out, and then I'm coming back. I'm in like 5 minutes, and then at 10:40 we'll start the quiz. But I will be coming before that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay, so I can. If I log out, is it possible for me to log in again? Okay, so I'm going to end the meeting for everybody, and then I'm logging in again. Okay?
Sir, do we have to come to lecture 1 or tutorial 1?
Lecture only.
All right.
Only in lecture. Okay?